from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
Arrow border, all hands back in battle station.
Tom Trento heads United West, a group that says it defends Western civilization against the onslaught of Islam.
Okay, if I raise you with aces, then I will, let me see if I can draw a pair of kings here.
Hey, Tom, the show's on.
Oh, sorry, I'm playing poker on my iPhone. No big deal. Doing the show is not that important by any means. Certainly not as important as sitting in a Senate hearing on whether or not we essentially go to war with Syria. But John McCain, who is either senile, certifiably, or quickly moving in that direction, yesterday got busted for, if you got a picture of this, we can put it up. If not, it's all over the internet. You can close that door back there. Got busted for sitting in the senatorial meeting, the hearing in Senate, where the senators are debating whether or not to pass a resolution. There we go. Take a look at that picture on TrentoVision. That's John McCain. Hey, let me check mine out.
Going all in, Tom? That's what I want to know. Was he
He was all in. He was all in. He got busted. Somebody took that over his shoulder, tweeted it out, and it went viral, to say the least. And he tweeted this morning, John McCain did, he said, "Scandal. I was caught, playing poker on my iPhone in basically a boring 3-hour senatorial meeting." That was his way of covering that. And a good friend of ours, David Yoshemi, an attorney, commented that there was scandal. Caught playing iPhone game at 3+ hour Senate hearing, boring hour. He's talking about. Worst of all, I lost. So he uses a little diffusive humor to diffuse the scandal that it is. Here is one of the activists, one of the progenitors, one of the architects of at least 60-day, with an option for 30 more days, campaign to attack Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria, for killing his people, which he's been doing for quite a long time. And he felt that the 3-hour meeting was going in a boring direction, took out his iPhone, start playing poker. David Yoshemi, good friend of ours.
Yeah,
and
I was just talking with Damon, our producer, and I turned to him, you know what?
Who's talking? Who is that talking back there?
I don't know.
You have a button to push?
I don't have a camera.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Oh, there we go.
No, I was just talking to Damon. It says, are you so glad that McCain did not get elected president? I mean, even as bad as Obama is, I was just like, oh my God. That's
your initial answer to that question would be, oh no, of course, we needed him. Then you go, maybe not. You do the calculus, the political calculus. But David Yoshemi, our good friend, attorney, said, thank you, John McCain. I'll remember next time I'm in a simple civil litigation suit in an 8-hour hearing, I'll just tell the judge, I got to take a little time. John McCain, if it's good enough for McCain, it's good enough for me to take some time off and play a little video game while we're waiting in this courtroom. I mean, it's insulting at its base, and it's idiotic on its face. But so what else is new with John McCain?
That's the guy who's taking front and center stage on the whole Syria thing.
Yep.
It's not like this is Brenda Jackson Lee.
Some whack job congresswoman.
This isn't some wacky, new or even old and senile.
This is the deliberative body.
This is the face of it.
But it's in the deliberative body. It's in the Senate. It's in the chamber where the serious, dispassionate, thinking philosopher leaders are playing poker while we may be going to war. But John McCain topped that a day earlier when he came out and compared Allahu Akbar the Islamic Jihadi war cry. If you know anything about Islamic doctrine, folks, anything, you know Allahu Akbar in its Arabic context, from an interpretive point of view, and one of the guys that's working with us on Team B2 is an Arabist, and he went through the translation of the term Allahu Akbar, and at its base, there's the article right there up on the screen, folks. At 6 minutes after 5 o'clock, welcome to TrentoVision. This is Tom Trento, your host today. CJ is not with us for the next few days. She is a Jewish woman, and this is a Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah.
Another holiday for what a surprise.
Yeah. Happy New Year to everybody.
CJ and everybody else.
This is a nice day in this office, I realize. I wonder why so nice. It is Judenrein.
Well, Damon is still here. He's Jewish.
Yes.
So.
Not according to your code.
That's true. Inside baseball. But in any event, Senator McCain compared Allahu Akbar, jihadi war cry. Whenever you hear Allahu Akbar, the primary understanding, the contextual understanding for Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar is God is greatest, but it's a jihadi war cry. And on Fox and Friends the other morning, Brian Kilmeade, one of the Fox commentators in the morning show, said he was offended by Muslims, yelling Allahu Akbar as they go and start killing Christians and Jews and other people, even other Muslims. And John McCain, I don't know who's giving him guidance or...
Umma Abadan.
Yeah.
I think Umma.
Yeah, Umma is.
Yes, Umma, well, what's the meaning of Allahu Akbar? Oh, it's just thank God.
Well, but even, why did he even weigh in on this? I mean, whoever is the advisor needs to talk to him. But we have our special guest with us, and we'll get back to John McCain and his lapdog status for President Obama. But right now, we want to know whether or not President Obama will fulfill his term through 2016, or whether or not the people can do something about it and have the gentleman removed. So let's welcome, as a guest on TrentoVision here today, this 4th of September, Brenda Elliott. Brenda, are you with us?
I am with you.
Great. Good to hear your voice. And you co-authored a fascinating book that we're hearing a lot about with that investigative rascal, good friend of ours, Aaron Klein. How was that little experience?
Oh, well, Aaron and I have been working together now. This is our 4th book, so great experience.
Yeah, this last book, must have had fun with this one, huh?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The last book entitled Impeachable Offenses, working with Aaron on this last one must have been a fascinating little journey, I would say.
It's been an interesting one.
Yeah, our team, the United West, we were in Israel last year, and we had an opportunity to go into Aaron's radio studio several times on our trip and have part of our team were interviewed by him. He's a fascinating guy. Tell the world, who the folks listening and watching right now, a little bit about Aaron, what he does, and a little bit about yourself, what you do.
Aaron has been in Israel doing investigative reporting since sometime in 2005. And he works as the Jerusalem bureau chief for WorldNet Daily. He also writes for a couple of Israel newspapers. He also, for almost 2 years, maybe a little bit more than 2 years, has been a radio talk show host on WABC radio out of New York. And as you mentioned, he has his studio in Israel. And he and I connected. Barack Obama brought us together in spring of 2008, and we kind of had a mutual admiration society sharing information. And then, I guess it was summer of 2009, Aaron was going to do another book, and he decided that we should do it together. So we've been a research and writing team on 4 books. I also do research for him for his articles on WorldNet Daily and for his radio show.
Oh, beautiful spelling. Beautiful. Then he is an amazing guy. He's busted some great stories. Now, impeachable offenses is simply an indictment against the president in light of his offenses that are impeachable. And you guys really wanted to get this book in the hands of the lawmakers. I want you to tell us why and what uniquely you did to accomplish that objective.
Well, part of this is very behind the scenes. I don't have any first-hand knowledge of exactly how this is going to happen. But when Congress returns on the 9th, the plan is to put a copy in the book of the hands of each congressman. You know, if we send it through the mail or you hand it to aides or take it even to their district offices in their home states, there's no guarantee that they will actually ever see it. So the plan is to, from within Congress, to have the book distributed. Keep your fingers crossed that the plan comes off.
Yeah, whatever we could do to help for sure, because your work with Aaron is magnificent work, and always sourced, and hard-hitting. Now, for the individual that hasn't read the book yet, Impeachable Offenses, you would look at the cover, and it's, if we can put the cover up at some point on our TV screen. Impeachable, real big over President Obama's face, offenses. You would think that this book is an apologetic, an argument for impeaching the president. Now, when you started this project, we all know that the president has failed the United States on many levels, has violated the Constitution on many levels, violated his oath of office on many levels. But as you dug in and started to do the research, was there anything that just jumped out at you as a writer that said, oh my God, I got to tell this to the people?
Well, my background is I'm a historian, and I have been doing research in writing on various topics for many years. And what Aaron and I do is we investigate. We don't start with conclusions. We look at, see what the evidence is. And actually, the ball on impeachment got rolling in March 2011, back when Representative Dennis Kucinich, Democrat from Ohio, was in the House of Representatives. And he was calling for impeachment then based on Obama going into Libya without consulting Congress. There were some other progressives, far lefties, that also were raising issues about impeachment long before we had these official calls from conservatives in the past few weeks. I guess it maybe in the past month. It was the Democrats who started chattering about impeachment, and that's what gave us a clue that if the left is talking about it, then there's something there to dig into, and that's what we did.
All right, well, give our viewers and listeners, we're broadcast on internet television, and we get out to quite a few people, and we're simulcast on a very large 50,000-watt radio station in South Florida going from Miami up to Orlando, and we have a very fluid population down here, a lot of people visiting from Europe, a lot from different parts of the country. It's a tourist destination. As a historian, explain to the folks the impeachment process, in a very simple way, how that takes place, and what the role of the Congress is, and then what the role of the Senate is to actually remove a president from office.
Well, I'd be very glad to, because that's an important part. I try to do this with every interview because impeachment is not something that people generally understand. It is the only remedy that our founding fathers gave us. It's in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5, to be specific, says that the House of Representatives shall have the sole, meaning the only, power of impeachment. Only the House of Representatives can start the ball rolling. So to make this simple to understand, you have a crime committed. You have a district attorney who goes to a grand jury and says, I think that these are things that rise to the level that we need to prosecute on these crimes. And then the House of Representatives that takes the role of the grand jury looks at what has been presented and says, yes, we think there's something here, we need to take this further, or they say, no, there's just not enough to do anything here, we're not going to vote to impeach. That is the impeachment. It happens in the House of Representatives, but that's part one. Part two is when those articles of impeachment are passed on to the Senate. The Senate now becomes the prosecuting attorney, and the defense calls witnesses, examines the charges that have been made by the House, and then they decide whether or not those offenses are severe enough to remove the president from office. So the impeachment basically is an indictment. The removal from office, that is up to the Senate to decide.
Okay, and to develop or to create impeachment articles, like was done with President Clinton, do you need a majority vote, or what's the criterion for moving the articles forward?
Well, as in anything else, there has to be a majority deciding vote whether they move forward or not. In the Senate, when the articles are heard, 2/3 of the Senate body must be present. So, for example, the whole process can come to a screeching halt if you can't even get 2/3 of the Senate members to listen to the articles of impeachment.
And just refresh our viewers and listeners' sense of history with President Clinton. The House moved articles forward based upon, I think, perjury. And what happened in the Senate back then? I forgot.
Well, the Senate would not vote. They did not vote to impeach him.
Were there hearings, or did they just 86 the articles?
Honestly, I don't recall, and I really should look that up. But I can say that they did. He was not removed, of course.
Yeah.
He finished out his presidency. The question that comes up now is that we have a Democrat-controlled Senate. Does that put an end to things? And the answer to that is no, because drawing up articles of impeachment and going through the process in the House takes time. It's not like I walk in today and I say, okay, we have to do an up or down vote here. There's a process involved, just like anything else. You have the whips that go out and they gather up their votes, and it's like now we have the whip action going on who's going to vote yes, who's going to vote no, who's leaning, who's a solid yes or solid no. So that sort of process would go on in the House. And then, of course, if those articles go forward to the Senate, then we're into another whole process of where there has to be more information gathered. You've got to be able to support. There's got to be support for or an absolute opposition to going for any further, and that could be ended, of course, with a Democrat majority. However, we are about a year away from a midterm election. There's a lot of conversation that there could be a flip in the Senate. It is possible for the Senate to become controlled now by conservatives. If that should happen, then it's going to be game on, a whole new ball game.
Yeah. Now, I want to get into
And we have a midterm election and a presidential election coming up, and people are already being cautious of what they say about Syria, because if you're the guy who needs to be reelected to stay in office, or you're the guy who wants to go on to run for president, your words are going to be very careful of what you say and do now.
Absolutely. We have limited time with you, and the whole concept of impeachment is fascinating. One quick answer, then we'll get into the specifics about the impeachable offenses of this president. Has there ever been a president impeached in the United States?
Hello.
Brenda?
I'm sorry, I have another radio station calling. I have to take this call.
Okay, so then we have to let you go right now, and we will pick you up another time to get into some of the impeachable offenses. Thank you for being with us, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, Brenda had to go. She is on we had a little sliver of time there. I don't think we've ever had a president impeached.
Well, we've had a president impeached, never convicted.
No, I mean the whole thing thrown right out. But Clinton was impeached, yeah?
Yeah, and Jackson was impeached. And,
Was he? No, he wasn't thrown out either.
He wasn't thrown out either. But no, we just, Nixon would have been.
Yeah, he was headed down the wild chute. Well, some of the offenses that the president would be indicted for obviously flow around his abuse of the office, his the management of Benghazi. There's Andy McCarthy's very big on this one. You have an obligation as the commander-in-chief to be in control of these sort of situations, as occurred in Benghazi, Libya, almost a year ago. It was just a few days short of the first anniversary of the tragedy at Benghazi. We need to do a show on that too there, gentlemen.
Yes, we do.
And Andy McCarthy, former prosecutor, Southern District of New York, and he cut his teeth on busting up the La Cosa Nostra. That was his really early part of his career. And then he moved into busting up Al-Qaeda. Two groups that operate quite similarly in many respects. Busting up Al-Qaeda in New York, put the blind Sheikh Abdul Rahman in jail. And Andy says that the doctrine would be of Obama being impeached would be not an overt doctrine where he violated the law, but where he didn't do what he's supposed to do, a doctrine of negligence. Negligent behavior in not properly managing a crisis that the commander-in-chief should manage, and based upon that and what happened, you literally could be removed from office. But whenever you talk about impeaching the president, what's the quick follow-up? What do people usually say?
Well, not Joe Biden.
right. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but,
Okay.
you got Joe Biden coming in. What do you guys think?
Well, first of all, I think this was my theory last night as far as when I was talking with you about it. I think Obama's putting himself out in front of this whole Syria mess just for distraction purposes, because he doesn't want to talk about Benghazi. He doesn't want to talk about all these things which are impeachable as a president. And, his dereliction of duty, it is such a, obvious failure of his presidency, and why the media is not picking up on it. They're just running cover for him, but nobody's willing to do any serious investigation on it or really, put his feet to the fire. They're getting sidetracked with Obama waving his other hand now, saying Syria, 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 and flexing his muscles. But, as far as him ever being impeached, it'll never happen because he has too many allies in the media.
Well, yeah, the media has become a lapdog in many respects for the president.
Well, if you look at the comparison between Nixon and him, of what he, in comparison to what Nixon did,
Yeah.
Nixon, is a puppy dog compared to what Obama's doing.
It's amazing. It's
and yet,
amazing.
the only reason that Nixon got, hammered was because the media hounded him. I mean, All the President's Men, you remember the movie?
Yeah.
You had papers, you had everybody, just going after him, just one after another, after another, after another, after another. It was a barragement. They never let up.
Never gave up.
Like a dog with a bone on this thing. They would not let go of the whole Watergate thing. Yet, when you have something like Benghazi or something like what happened with the AP or even the IRS, oh my God, can you imagine?
How many people died at Watergate? Like 100?
Oh yeah, there was I think the mass casualty. The mass casualty scene at Watergate.
There was 1 million people died at Watergate. Nobody died at Watergate, and the press went after, because the press in the 70s, the press has always been liberal. Coming out through the 50s, the conservative press started transitioning to the liberal press in the sexual revolution of the 60s. So by the time you get to 73 with Richard Nixon, the press, everybody's smoking dope and hanging out and writing. Everybody's a journalist. Everybody was going to journalism school. And their worldview was totally different of prim and proper and, button-down Richard Nixon, kind of an awkward character. So the press went after him. Conversely, today, the press is with President Obama. That's really the distinction. Right. But the book we're talking about, we just interviewed, for a brief interview, Brenda Elliott, who works with Aaron Klein, good friend of ours, investigative reporter based in Israel, works for WorldNet Daily. Impeachable Offenses, that was it up on the screen. And you need to get it because they go through Fast and Furious and show how there's an impeachable offense for that.
There you go, another one.
They go through Obamacare. They go through executive amnesty. They go through Benghazi. They go through the advisors in the White House, capitulating to the Muslim Brotherhood. All of these have some sort of root in law, constitutional law, where you're not supposed to do this stuff. It's that simple. But we were just talking about you trade Obama for Biden, Obama for Biden. I don't know. Something tells me that we know Obama's history. He grew up in a communist family. The father was a Marxist. The mother was a Marxist. They met in a school. Where did they meet? In Harvard, I think, where she was studying Russian. She was a Russia-phile, Soviet-phile, loved the Soviet Union, as did he, the father, Barack Obama Sr. Then the father took off, and he was a Muslim, which was interesting, a Muslim Marxist. And then she married another Muslim, but he was out of her life. Obama's mother married another Muslim. He was quickly out of her life. And and Frank Marshall Davis came into her life and became the mentor at 10 years old of President Obama. Not a, maybe he's kind of to the left. A card-carrying member of the Communist Party.
Trevor Lau went over a lot of that.
So the most impressionable years in a young child's mind, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, Frank Marshall Davis, who was 70 years old at the time, about 50 or 60 years older than the president, mentored the president on Marxist communist doctrine. He then goes to Occidental in the early 80s, Occidental College in Los Angeles, and in his book writes about hanging with the Marxists, the socialists, the lesbians, the artists, getting involved in their worldview, which was his worldview.
His idol, as far and the total whatever.
Yep, Frantz Fanon, F-R-A-N-Z, Frantz Fanon, who was the leading authority on anti-colonialism. Obama studies under him at Columbia University. So he goes from LA school, Occidental, to Columbia, studies under him and Edward Said, who was the head of the PLO in the United States. So now this is getting us up to him almost 30 years old, about 28 years old. So from 0 to 28, the president studied Marxism. Oh, man.
What's funny is when I had to go into the nuclear power program, I had to do an FBI background check to get my top secret security clearance and all that. And if Obama had to go through what I had to go through,
he couldn't make it.
He couldn't make it into the nuclear power program. Now he has the keys to those nuclear missiles. I mean, you talk about an upside down world we live in, Todd. It's completely.
And our question we're raising here at 30 minutes after 5 o'clock on Wednesday, September 4th. Welcome back, everybody, from a great Labor Day weekend. Yesterday was our 1-year anniversary. If you saw our show, Old School, we went back to WMN Studios. We had some great sub sandwiches from, I wouldn't even say that. Anything we endorse is probably
some good sandwiches.
They were good sandwiches.
Some good birthday cake.
But whatever we endorse, it isn't...
Subway.
Yeah, Subway. bad guys coming to get evil at that place, going after them. But we had great sandwiches yesterday. It was great seeing the old crew, Joe and Bob and Duff and Kenny and everybody else over there, Karen. Wasn't that cool? That was pretty cool yesterday.
Cool.
We apologize for the video signal on you watching on TrentoVision.tv or the United West.
That's the reason we moved, Tom.
For breaking up and dying.
Oh, God.
WNN's a great place. We love them, but get your internet fixed, okay? They did get it fixed, but just... Let's put it this way. Our internet here is about 10 times stronger than their internet there.
Yeah.
So in any event.
Yeah, but it's going through 300 feet of earth.
Yeah, that's
Get
true.
out of here.
That's true. So we had a good time yesterday, the 3rd of September. It's literally our 1-year anniversary. Thank all of you for supporting us. And if you'd like to continue to do that, what we're trying to do from now to the end of the year is develop a broad base of people who support us with an $18 a month commitment. That's, a cup of coffee. Your one Starbucks Frappuccino mocha with fizzle dizzle on it, venti. They're about $18.
Don't be bitching
Your drink.
Don't leave that.
They're about $18 and they're like 6,000 calories. So blow off one Frappuccino Express Extraordinaire.
Right.
Go to theunitedwest.org. There's a little button at the top, donate securely.
There you go.
Make an $18 a month commitment. That's all we ask, particularly around Rosh Hashanah. It's a beautiful number, 18. And if you can do more than 18...
It's a mitzvah.
It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. If you can do more than 18, we'd appreciate that. But anything to help keeps the show on the road, indeed. 33 minutes after 5 o'clock. Tomorrow, special show tomorrow. We taped this a couple of days ago. Trevor Loudon. You guys were here for that. I was a little under the weather there
Yeah.
and had some things to do.
Cool guy.
Give us a 1-minute commercial for tomorrow's show. Why should people watch tomorrow? Following from what we just talked about.
It was a fantastic show. It really was. I mean, the guy is an amazing brain. He's from New Zealand, and he has a passion and study for communism and the association. He did some very in-depth research into Obama's past. You remember
A lot of the stuff you were actually just talking about.
talking about
But in a great detail.
great
Yeah.
detail with references and sources and pictures and signed documents by Obama, where he actually signed. And one thing I did learn, and I'll give a little spoiler.
Join the party?
Well, he joined not only did he join the new party, he helped found it.
Oh, did he really?
I did not know that.
What was the new party, Mark?
New party is a total communist party. Back in when Obama was younger, and he signed up for it and joined it and everything else like that. And he's got the document and proof to show the signature cards and everything else. And it's pretty amazing.
So our president helped start the Communist Party.
Nothing to help, nothing to see here. Move on. Just go.
Well, no moving on with our show, folks. The United West, our counterterrorism educational organization, our job is to dig in this stuff, expose it, but also we don't just want to expose it. We need to transform the culture we're in, which is simply means to stop the degradation and the slow destruction and deconstruction of the Judeo-Christian worldview, which has worked for 237 years. But now a guy who was raised as a communist believes there's a better way, and somehow he's been able to convince, somehow, it isn't that President Obama is such a magical or mystical person. There's a confluence of events that have occurred. There's the maturing of the hard left, the Code Pink folks and Answer folks and Move On folks. Over the past 4, 5, 6, 7 years, as President Bush initiated the war on Al-Qaeda, the war on terror, the war on Islamic Jihad, that's the proper name, there was a pushback by the hard left, and because the enemy didn't roll over as quickly as everyone would have liked them to, because they've been doing this for 1,400 years, There was a disillusionment in the fact that we have to fight a war for our survival. So it was like, oh, Bush is crazy, he's a cowboy, we need somebody better. So there's a significant movement, particularly those who influence institutions. You don't need massive amounts of people to move a culture in a particular way if the individuals who want to move it in their direction are placed in leadership of institutions, like the institution of law, or the institution of education, or the institution of the media, or the institution of government. Just need a few people at the top steering the thing, and you can move literally hundreds of millions of people. Well, there was this confluence in 2008 where a lot of the institutional leaders who were leftists saw in President Obama their moment, their manifest destiny, just coincide in an individual with a very eclectic background, neat and clean. He was a clean black guy. He wasn't a dirty black guy, right?
He spoke well.
Yeah, that was, we're quoting Joe Biden when he said, that Barama guy, they could never get his name right. He's a clean guy. He's very clean. Talking about
He speak good.
Clean and articulate.
clean and articulate, right? Unbelievable.
You know,
And Ted Kennedy once had to introduce him and says, I'm here doing a big thing, and he says, now Barack Osama bin Laden, Barack bin Laden. He just stumbled.
And he was drunk. What do you want from the guy?
Probably, yeah.
but what's interesting, you said a very important point in what you were saying there, that it only takes a few people to move it from one direction to the other.
Either direction.
That's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
And if you look at what happened here in Palm Beach County, case in point, where we moved 33,000 votes for Romney, more than any other county in the whole.
With our little rinky-dink show.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Yes, you know,
Pennies on the dollar.
Yes, and help with a lot of other people who came into play, but.
Best
it's not-
bang for your buck. They're activists and sponsors. If you guys want, seriously, conservative people that give money to candidates and PACs and super PACs, send the United West money. What Mark is going to tell you about the freakish change in the Palm Beach numbers in the last election versus the rest of the state, a county that is traditionally liberal. And there's no way that this show isn't making a difference.
That's absolutely making a difference. Yeah. Absolutely making a difference.
What we need to do is be bigger, and I don't want to step on Mark's shoes, but
That's all right.
Well, hang on. I'm going to put this in context. Then I'm going to go to Mark. Don't forget, we're teasing tomorrow's show. Trevor Loudon, who's going to speak on the communist influence President Obama and what he has done in terms of destroying the United States, as it ought to be. So that's tomorrow, Thursday the 5th. On Friday the 6th, tune in, Jumba Jumba Freaky Friday. We're trying to get the leaders of the Million Muslim March, which has been changed to the Million Idiot March, I think, or whatever it's been changed to. They originally agreed, then they said no, then they said yes, then they said no, so we don't know what the heck is going on.
that remind me, I'm going to need off next week to attend.
Are you going,
I'm not attend the Million Muslim March.
We have some gear, some undercover cameras and audio devices that we use to go into mosques and spy on them. Could we hook you up with that?
There is no need. They should open me with the open arms. I am one of them. I am brother.
Everybody okay?
Oh yes, you're just breaking computers. I'm up here.
Okay, we'll wire you up then, because we want to get it on tape.
I will be there.
Yeah, because
You'll be paying for it.
because we want to help you and your brothers.
Thank you.
That's what we have to do. That's what we have
It
to do.
is a cut.
That's Friday. Now, dig this, folks. Next week, big week here on TrentoVision United West at 40 minutes after 5 o'clock on Wednesday the 4th. Dig this for next week. Monday, Tuesday, our shows will be on, we're going to stay on Syria. We're going to get into a little bit of it right now because it's really a dividing point in world history. And who said that? Barry Rubin said that. I'm going to read you something in a second. But we're going to heavily analyze Syria. And I am confused. And I'm going to ask you guys a question in a minute. I'm confused on one
You're
point.
confused.
I'm confused on one point.
I think we put together a little video actually since the show started.
All right, well, hang on. We got time here. I'm confused on this point, and we're going to deal with it the rest of this week and into next week. Today on the 4th, today's the 4th, yesterday on the 3rd, AIPAC, which is the American Israeli Political Action Committee, AIPAC, huge Jewish body, basically, Jewish Political Action Committee. I've been to several of them, 10,000 people during the AIPAC week. Highly influential in the United States and in Israel because of the significance of this organization, the policy work they do, and all of that. AIPAC joined with the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. The ADL, Anti-Defamation League, which, okay, now these two groups typically are to the left of center supporting President Obama. We know that. You know who joined with those guys? The Republican Jewish Coalition, who is so far to the right of President Obama that I went, what the heck is the RJC? 35,000 members in the United States came out with a policy statement. We are supporting President Obama's attack on Syria.
Explain this one to me, Tom, please.
We'll talk about in a second. This is what we're going to work on the next few days, trying to make sense out of the Syria situation. I'll give you a little insight into that in a minute. Next week, on the 11th, we're going to be live streaming a show, maybe, if the connections work. Whenever we go on the field to live stream, we are totally at the mercy of the internet system in the part of the country we are in. If you go to Washington, D.C., they got a strong internet system, but they bug it, they jam it every 5 minutes.
They jam it, a motorcade will go by. And
they jam on the cell phones and whoo, the thing goes out. But we will be in Venice, not Italy.
We're going to Italy? Oh!
I've been there. I've been to Venezia several times. We're going to be in Venice, not California.
Many of my co-religionists have been moving to this Italy from Tunisia since this Arab Spring started. Italy has been overrun with my people taking over your country, Trento.
But on the 11th, we will be in Venice, Florida, over on the West Coast. There's a phenomenal 9/11 memorial service, and a service of celebration, not just a memorial service, but a celebration of some of the work that the great people over in Venice are doing to honor our military, to honor those who have given their all for this country since 9/11. I'm the keynote speaker, so we'll be there in person September 11th, 10 to 2 o'clock, Patriots Park, Venice, Florida. Everybody's welcome. We'll start promoting that in a bit. Then as we go through the week, we'll be back in the studio. Then the following Monday, I think it's the 17th of September, we'll be up at the Villages, in person up at the Villages, which is northwest of Orlando, doing a presentation on how to win in 2014. And we're going to show you an analytical way in which the good guys can win these elections. And then toward the end of the month, we are headed to Israel, taking our cameras, going there. Going to try to broadcast back every day from Israel. Again, that's crapshoot, rolling the dice. But we will shoot a show every day, maybe 2 shows, come back and do an extensive fact-finding presentation as we go to the border of Hezbollah in Lebanon, as we go to the border of Syria at the Golan, as we go to the border of the Palestinians, Hamas in Gaza. Then we're going to go down to Eilat, down the bottom, where it's the wild, wild west at the Sinai. So we're going to bring our cameras there and bring you to the war front and give you a feel for what's going on in Israel. That's at the end of the month. We'll be gone for 2 weeks, maybe longer, depending. But we'll be broadcasting shows every day. That's what we got in the future. Pretty cool
Is
stuff.
that your tour schedule, Tony?
Yeah.
So you're not very busy, really?
So send your shekels, okay, on this New Year's. And,
Yes, many shekels.
your dollars and whatever you got.
And if you would like to sponsor my trip to Washington for a Million Muslim March, send your dinars.
That's on the 11th. Yeah. And we have on the
I'm only
11th,
taking bus, so I only need like $89.
maybe Abdullah, you go to Washington, and Damon will go an hour north of where we're going to be in Venice, is where Pastor Terry Jones is going to be burning 2,998 Bibles. Not Bibles.
I have first gone back on speaking terms with your producer. Now you want to start this new fresh battle?
So we have all kinds of things going on in Florida.
Yeah,
Yes.
Terry Jones actually just won a big important case.
What was that?
Up in Dearborn.
Yeah, what was that all about?
Yeah, well, what happened was...
You were involved with that.
Yeah, I was...
You videotaped his trial, right?
Yeah, he...
Such as it was.
Well, in essence, what he did, he just won a major lawsuit over the city of Dearborn, because they said if you're going to have a right to, if you want to speak here ever again, you're going to have to sign this waiver waiving us of any responsibility of anything that ever happens to you, and plus we're going to charge you all the attorney all city expenses to give you coverage, right? And he said, no, I'm not going to sign that. And he didn't sign it, and they didn't want to give him the waiver. But, so it went up to court where he actually won. They threw it out, said the law is unconstitutional, and the city of Dearborn has to pay now their expenses.
Excellent. And that was, I think, Richard Thompson and Tom Lynch with the Thomas More Law Center. Great group of people up there. I think they're in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They represented Pastor Terry Jones. Whether you like the guy or not is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that city violated his constitutional rights in capitulating to Sharia-compliant Islam. In Dearborn, Stan, there's a story right there up on our screen. It's up on the Thomas More Law Center's site. Pastor Terry Jones wins big case. Good job. Round of applause to the boys up at Thomas More Law Center.
Very disappointing.
Yes.
I asked, what do you make out of APAC, ADL, American Anti-Defamation League, joining with the Republican Jewish Coalition, supporting President Obama to bomb Syria? How do you, somebody figure that out for me?
Yes, it is 4 letters. Iran. That is the only thing that, because Syria is such tight with Iran, Israel feel that most serious threat of all would be Iran, nukes, or you see the willingness to use the chemical weapons, and they think that they would have much better chance to control Al-Qaeda rebels than have Iranian nuclear or Syrian chemical weapons on the border. They were trying to choose the lesser of two evils.
But you look at it this way, all right, if they do strike, you know they're going to come, they have carte blanche to strike at Israel, not that they don't have it already, but...
If who strikes?
If the U.S. strikes...
If we strike Syria...
it is... I mean, what is the outcome? Where is the end game for this? How does this end? You name the best strategy possible that would be an end game for us. Okay, you launch missiles at them, and what? Assad's going to stop? Because you said that's the only time you're going to launch him? No, he's going to keep going. You're not going to stop. If you're going to try to put out a dictator or a country, you go over there and you put boots on the ground, you go and you take them out. You know, the strategy part of it is just insane.
There is no strategy because there's no end game. They don't have a strategy to go to war with because they don't have a goal.
Well,
so how do you have a strategy when you don't even know what your goal is?
Well, especially when you didn't draw a red line at all.
What do you mean? I thought he drew a red line.
No, he
Tom.
didn't. Tom.
Did you hear that Obama didn't set a red line on Syria? Look at this. Check out the screen.
I'd like to have a video to show the audience.
We do.
Oh, you do? Oh, let's show the video. Set it up. Somebody set it up.
All right. Here is.
Here's the headline from today.
All right, go ahead.
Net 1.
All right.
I'm sorry, camera 4. Obama, quote, I didn't set a red line on Syria. There it is.
He's
Today.
speaking now. He's in where? Stockholm or someplace?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's speaking at a global conference. He's supposed to meet Putin, and he makes a statement today. I never set a red line on Syria. Okay.
We actually have audio evidence. I know evidence is something that is kind of hard to believe with the media.
The emperor might be nude.
All right, here we go.
We have been very clear to the Assad regime, but also to other players on the ground that a red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized.
First of all, I didn't set a red line. The world set a red line.
We have communicated in no uncertain terms with every player in the region that that's a red line for us.
First of all, I didn't set a red line. The world set a red
Now,
line.
when he makes these statements, this is a year ago, right?
Consequences.
We have set a red line, and today he makes this next statement. Play that over again.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
Around or being utilized.
First of all, I didn't set a red line. The world set a red line.
That's today.
We have communicated in no
Yes, sir.
uncertain terms
No, this is last
with
year.
every player in the region that that's a red line for us.
That's a red line
First
for
of all,
us.
I didn't set a red line.
How can you dopes vote
world
for
set a
this
red
guy?
line.
How can you look at yourself?
There's consequences if we start seeing movement on the chemical weapons front or the use of chemical weapons. That would change my calculations significantly.
First of all, I didn't set a red line. The world set a red line.
All right, come back to here for a minute. Okay, he's supposed to be a great communicator. The world set a red line.
The world.
He said us. He said that would set a red line for us at the beginning of that video.
Yes.
For us.
Okay, here's the trick, folks.
U.S.
Here's the trick, folks. Now, the reason why this show is so valuable is because we give you information that you rarely get anyplace else. It doesn't matter. We're all parsing and we're all laughing. It doesn't matter. How do the enemies of the United States, the Islamic jihadis, how do they view what he just said? And it's very, very simple. It's another step in retreat. And whenever you take a step back against Islamic jihad, they take 2 steps forward. He is ill-equipped to fight this battle. A holy war is what it is because they've declared a holy war on us. He's ill-equipped to understand it. He's ill-equipped to implement any efforts to stop it. And he's ill-equipped to have the strength of will to continue till there's a decisive finish to defeating Islamic jihad, at least in the West, in the United States, and holding it off and letting it fester in Islamic countries, which is how we're going to have to contain this disease. Islamic jihad is a disease. It's quite simple. It's a global disease where 2 factions of people, both in the same faith, want to kill each other and then kill all the other people around, because Islam at its base is a system of death. It's a death culture. He doesn't understand that, and he doesn't have the strength of will to even to say that like that, this
Does John
president.
McCain have that?
So he's got to take a step back. Because he clearly said in the first part of that video, a year ago, it's a red line for us, meaning the United States. Now, because he's being called on the carpet, he starts pushing back and calibrating his statements.
My
You
mom-
people vote for him. That's
my
amazing.
My mom used to call it crawl fishing. Now he's
Crawfishing?
He goes, what are you crawl fishing for? You know.
Now he can walk that
Right.
back by saying when he says that's a red line for us. He is a citizen of the world. Don't forget. So
The whole world thing.
He was probably speaking on the world's behalf when he said us and not the country that he happens to be the president of.
And here's the other thing too. I love what Pelosi, the Pelosi family has to say about all this.
Oh, the 5-year-old in particular.
Yeah, right. Where they're kind of talking
The
about,
grandson.
where they're talking about. Well, the whole conclusion is that, Syria has stepped, outside the boundaries of humanity, and now it's they're not world. What they have done has put their by using chemical weapons, they're not acting in a humane fashion as world citizens. So where does bombing churches and Coptic churches
The whole thing is insane.
And where does all this? They have one standard for something that they don't like, and then all of a sudden it is something that they do like. Like the Arabs in the Middle East. They can just brush aside and hide it up and do whatever they want to do.
Well, Mark, you're raising very, very good points on the inconsistency of the analysis by the West to the atrocities going on in the Syrian inter-Nicene war. Don't forget, folks, this is a civil war. You have people that live in Syria that have taken one side, the north, and people that live in Syria, like our civil war, that have taken another side, the south. But in this case, they are, hang on.
Yeah, how is an atrocity for chemical weapons on one side, killing people, different than the atrocity of burning down Coptic churches and killing, thousands and thousands of people? How is that different? How is that different than what Kim Jong-il was doing over in his death camps over in China? And why is this unique thing, because it's a chemical weapon? Oh my God, chemical weapons. Well, they kill just the way people kill.
Speaking of the crazy Korean, I heard that he just executed his ex-girlfriend, and Dennis Rodman is there visiting his buddy. Is that not beautiful? Oh, I went to go visit my buddy. He did the Aaron Hernandez on his ex-girlfriend, and Rodman's like, he's cool, man.
And people say, oh, your show's so funny. No, we just talk about stuff that's happening, It's unbelievably, sadly funny. But your analysis of the West's inability to understand the inconsistencies in light of this inter-Nicene war, this civil war, Sunni against Shia. Whereas the United States Civil War occurred for about, 5 or 6 years, right. And we had two parts of the country fighting over states' rights issues, and part of the states' rights issue was whether or not states could maintain slavery. That was resolved in a war and then resolved by constitutional edict. That shows the vulnerability even of Western democracy going to war in the same country going to war, but it shows the strength of Western democracy in prosecuting the war and then implementing a civil constitutional construct to end it. 1,400 years of Shia versus Sunni. Oh, by the way, the Shia blew the Sunnis up today in Iraq. 1,400 years has showed the absolute abject failure of Islam as a political system, which is what it is, to negotiate any sort of peace constraints between these two warring factions. So our analysis in the West here, when we look at Syria, has to say, these are brothers that have been fighting for 1,400 years. They're never going to stop. They function as animals. They cut each other's hearts out and eat their body organs to thrust fear into the other one to gain an upper hand and to have better favor with Allah. This is the doctrine of Islam. Oh, it's hijacked. It's not hijacked. Why does everybody go through, if Islam has been hijacked, why do we all go through bomb detectors when we get on an airplane? Who's going to bomb the place,
And on top of that,
30 seconds.
We want to attack Syria on 9/11. Oh, give me a break. They're not going to react to that at all.
Yeah, right,
sure.
Exactly. All right, tomorrow, Trevor Loudon. I keep wanting to say Trevor Howard or whatever it is. No. Trevor Loudon tomorrow. Then Friday, Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday. We're going to read you Vladimir Putin's letter to Breitbart about how dopey President Obama is. I don't think it's a hoax. I've read the letter.
I haven't seen it.
It's bizarre. We're going to read it on Friday, Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday. And we're going to tell you how Barry Rubin says the world has changed as a result of Syria. Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.